consensus is emerging that the country is coming out of the worst recession with a glorious recovery. Retail sales are recovering. Consumer spending is recovering. The government's more optimistic. Is this really what's happening? Let's ask Howard Davidowitz. Howard, you've preached doom for years. Were you wrong? Are we recovering?
Well, not in my mind. When I look at the size of the deficit, when I look at the size of our debts, when I look at China, getting out of dollars, when I look at countries like Russia moving out of dollars, when I see rich oil-producing countries moving out of dollars, less confidence in the dollar, hoarding gold in China, when I see all of these trends, that leads me to believe that we're a bigger credit risk than we've ever been. Our debt is completely out of control. We'll soon have debt at the level of 100% of our gross domestic product. We'll be amongst the weakest countries in the world financially. That affects our national security. That affects our standing in the world in every way. We're also the laughingstock of the world with our working with Iran and doing every crazy thing that we're doing. So the bottom line is we're headed to fiscal instability. Our credit rating will be under siege. The dollar will be headed not to be the world's reserve currency in 5-6 years. We're weaker than we've ever been. We look more and more like Zimbabwe than we did before. And I see nothing on the horizon to fix it. If you look at Obama's budget, we've got trillion-dollar deficits forever, and we're broke, just like California.
Right. Well,
that's where we're going.
That is true. But what about the fact that during the crisis of 2008, the dollar rallied, and when we have problems in Greece, the euro's tumbling, that people are coming into the dollar? Isn't that say that maybe people have more faith in the dollar than you're suggesting?
Yeah, I think they have more faith in the dollar than Greece. And yeah, I agree with you. But I think long term, when you look at Russia, China, Asia, and get their attitude about the dollar, and I speak to those folks fairly frequently.
You spend a lot of time in Japan, I know that.
Yes, they have no confidence in what we're doing. I have no confidence in what we're doing. And leading financiers around the world have no confidence in us constantly exploding our deficit forever. But the point is, we're in terrible shape. And we desperately need China and everybody else to buy our paper. I don't see us going anywhere but down. Living standards will never be the same. They're headed down inexorably. We could have a good 6-8 months, a good 8 months, a good year, a good 3 years. That's what Japan had. It's inexorably headed down. That's where we're going.
Are there going to be any changes to this, or is it just going to be the same forever?
Well, I think there are going to be some changes because all you have to do is look at Obama's popularity rate. The thing that changes things in America, the things that create change are things like the Tea Party movement and this and that. What created Ronald Reagan, what created Bill Clinton, what created Obama.
Right.
I mean, Obama got created because Bush was a disaster, and he was. He put all these wars on credit cards. He had the pharmaceutical. He paid for nothing. Bush was a disaster. So along came Obama. And now we got what we want, a bigger disaster. So that change will take place because the American people, while they're bored with the details, will demand change. And I think that's what happened in the state of Massachusetts. The state of Massachusetts, Ted Kennedy's seat. I think there was a message in there.
There was a message. So what is the change going to look like?
I think
the Republicans taking over Congress?
Well, the change is going to be, well, first of all, the Republicans were horrendous. So if it's going to be the George Bush-type Republicans, that was worse than anything. But it's going to have to be something different. It's going to have to be someone or some group who is committed to cutting our costs, to shrinking the cost and size of government. Look, we're putting in a new entitlement health care. You have to be crazy. We can't pay for any of the entitlements we have. That's what's bad. We can't pay for Medicare. We can't pay for Medicaid. Social Security's broke. The post office is broke. Everything is bankrupt, and we're adding a new entitlement. How does that sound to you? I mean, that's literally crazy. And of course, they believe we're going to cut the deficit doing it. Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
So all of that stuff is like really crazy. I think the American people are going to demand an administration that's going to put their head to the grindstone and is going to shrink the size and cost of government. That's going to shrink the debt. That's going to shrink the deficit. We're going to have huge pain doing it. I don't want to say this is good. Unemployment, we're going to have a lot of terrible things. I think the American people will pay the price if they understand the logic of it. They don't understand the logic of what's going on. Neither do I. None of this makes any sense. The guys who created this are in Washington making speeches on what we ought to do. That's relatively crazy.
Right. All right, Howard, thanks very much.